All right, so this is Black Widow. It's been delayed a couple times and all that because of the pandemic or whatever. Um, I didn't really care for it all that much, other than certain elements, and I'll get to that in a second. But it's directed by Kate Shortland. So Scarlett Johansson plays Natasha Romanoff again, Black Widow, and she's on the run from what's the name, General Ross or whatever, because of the whole Sokovia Accords and all that from Civil War, and you kind of get some things in the very beginning about her family and all that, and her originally going to the Red Room with her sister. So she meets up with her sister again, played by Florence Pugh. The sister's character is Yelena, and they reunite and all that. Yelena was still a widow because the Red Room, even though Black Widow thought that she had killed the guy that was running it and that it was gone, the Red Room is still around, and she was a widow. And the guy that runs it is using like mind control on them, but there's this gas, this red gas that can like free them from the mind control. So she's been freed, and now she wants to, I guess, help Black Widow to find the Red Room because she doesn't know where it's at, and finally take him out for good and free the rest of the widows, along with the help of their father and mother. The father is played by David Arbor. His name is Alexei. He's the Red Guardian. He's kind of like Captain America. He's a super soldier. And Milena, played by Rachel Weisz, that's the mother. So positives. The family elements of this movie, the emotional moments between, especially Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh, they do a great job. Especially Florence Pugh, I really liked her character a lot. She has a lot of personality. She's kind of fun. She's kind of like making fun of Black Widow's little superhero poses that she does. But the dynamic between them and David Arbor too, like, is probably the best parts of this. I mean, the conversation with them and reuniting around the table. I think it's in the trailer. That part is better than and more interesting than any of the fight scenes. The fight scenes are okay, but they're a little too choppy. But yeah, the interpersonal relationships are easily the best written part and the best part of this movie, almost to the point where everything else kind of feels like it pales in comparison. If we're being honest, there's a chase scene that's all right, even though there's not a lot of stakes in some of this, and I'll get back to that. There's a car chase scene that was nice. There's a big action scene at the end that's a lot, and I guess that was all right. Taskmaster was cool. If Taskmaster would have been in more of the movie, I guess that's all I got with positives. The movie is just kind of, it's messy because they're all over the place. It's There are things that are, well, most things are not developed enough. It almost feels like this is a sequel to something, a sequel to a movie we never got, because there's a lot of exposition and having to go back and show, like, the some flashbacks of certain things, and it's a little too much. It feels like it kind of just throws you into something, and there's all this other stuff going on that has to be explained, and it gets to the point where it's a little hard to follow at times, and you're not really invested in this stuff. I mean, the guy that she's going after, I don't think we've ever even heard of him before. Like, the backstory of Black Widow, they kind of touched on in Age of Ultron, but that's about it. So all of this is new information that's just kind of being thrown at you. The Taskmaster, there's a reveal with Taskmaster that I thought was really lame. There's something in this movie. Well, first of all, it doesn't have any stakes at all within the actual movie. Like, there's a scene where um, Black Widow and her sister are in a car, and it's getting thrown around and all this other stuff. There's a tank and everything, and nothing happens other than one of them has a cut on their arm. It's like, that's nothing, really. That means nothing to me. So there's that. And then there's the the thing where multiple times a character is believed to be dead, but then they're revealed to still be alive. That kept being kind of annoying to me. Um, and then there's something with the main guy at the end, where there's something that keeps Black Widow from doing anything to him, and I thought that was so silly. I thought that was so stupid. I started laughing. I really did. It's either a movie that we should have gotten years ago, or because the character's dead now, so you can't really get that invested in what's happening to her in this movie because we know where it's going to end. So, it either feels like a movie that we should have got years ago, or it feels like it should just be a Disney Plus show. I don't know if anybody has also said that because it's getting praised by people. I mean, of course it is, but you know, I just it just didn't do much for me in the overall story of it. For the overall story, I really didn't care. Like, I didn't care about the guy she was going after. I didn't care about saving the widows that we're just now finding out are still around. I don't. I just didn't care about that stuff. But the family stuff I thought was great. David Arbor I thought was great in his role. He's kind of obsessed with Captain America and all that. There's a lot of tension and things like that within their dynamic with everything that they've been through, and their whole family really, and it leads to some really you know uh, interesting interactions between them. But everything else, I mean, I just don't really, I don't care. It would have worked a lot better as a Disney Plus show, and because of the overall writing, and also that the fight scenes are okay, but nothing to really, go crazy about. It just ends up being just kind of mediocre, kind of, because it's not bad, but it's not necessarily good either. I can't really recommend it to anybody, because there's only one real element that I think is legitimately really good, like even great, and everything else just kind of feels like a waste of everyone's time. I don't know why this movie even exists. I'm being honest. The whole time I'm watching it, I was like, what reason do we have for this movie to come out, especially now? No reason at all. I mean, it may lead to another Disney Plus show. It may lead to some of these other characters, the sister character being in one of the movies, but that's about it. I mean, it does feel kind of pointless in that regard. This is a side thing, I guess, not a full-on critique, but there's this really shitty cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit at the beginning with this montage. That's another thing. You got to use the montage because you don't have enough time to fully flesh out all the things, all that was going on with Black Widow, with the Red Room and all that other stuff. That would have been interesting to fully see. We've only really seen bits and pieces of it in that other movie. So I don't know. Another thing, it feels so separate from everything in that they have to like name drop, like, hey, where's Tony Stark at? Like, hey, you're an Avenger. They have to keep saying that. You're an Avenger. You're an Avenger. And then you have to keep seeing General Ross or whatever. I think his name was Ross, the guy that's going after her. You have to keep seeing him, and he feels out of place with what's really going on here. You didn't need that at all. I'm gonna give it a rental. I really enjoyed Black Widow and her family and their dynamic, but everything else just kind of fell flat for me, and I didn't really care. And I'm probably not gonna remember this movie in a couple weeks, if that. But yeah, that's Black Widow, and I'm done.